computer, and here we go. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. We have all the different time zones and folks coming in throughout the call, I'm sure, today. The best thing about the call is that we're going to be recording it, and so therefore there will be a replay. And we actually learned something the other day from Banifshay. We had the call, as many of you know, to talk about some legal questions. More specifically, this first call was about copyright, the use of quotes and things like that. Well, we put that up on our YouTube channel, then took that YouTube link and posted it on our Facebook page. The reason I'm talking about it is because everybody should learn this, is that if you put a post or a link or a video or anything on Facebook, it is no longer your property. Facebook can take that and do whatever they wish with it, share it throughout the world. I had no idea that the moment that happened, anyone else can take that and run with it. And so in our case, with legal questions, it's the last thing we want to do is be giving out free legal advice. So our lawyer told us to take it off of Facebook, which we did. And so now we're going to create a private page on our website, and we're going to password protect it. And then we'll get it out to everybody and share the passwords with those who we want to have see it. This call, for instance, is going to be a little more public. It's not that we have a lawyer here that's not that we aren't all valuable, because we are, but a legal thing is quite different. Right now, ours is just a chat and advice and moving forward like that. So
does that apply to YouTube as well, or just Facebook?
I asked her about YouTube, if we could make it private and password protected, and she said yes.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that YouTube is a little more protected, but it's a perfect question. We're going to have a call with Banifshay once again, not this week because we don't have time left in the week, but the following week we will be having another call with her. Jamie, you're really good at asking questions. I definitely would put that question on that.
Thank you.
For her to ask. So I think it's an excellent question. But I did ask her that yesterday, and she did say that that would be fine if we password protected it. Whereas Facebook, you can't password protect.
No.
So I think because YouTube has that capability, I think that makes it more private.
You could make a private page though, couldn't you? And then post it on there maybe?
I asked her that, whether or not it was because it was in a private group. She said no, because they can still download the link. So we had to make it public in YouTube. So we didn't even have the capability of making it private in YouTube. We put it public in YouTube. She said that we then can have that link shared anywhere in the world. So I think that was part of the problem. Whereas if you only put it on YouTube, you control who gets to see it. As soon as it ends up in social media, you've now broadcasted everywhere.
And that would mostly apply to things like just like if you're giving out legal or like expertise advice that you should consult someone, right? Or
well, if you're giving she's a lawyer, therefore
right. That's or like if a doctor did it.
Yeah, it's like you having a course and you don't put it up on the website. You don't post on Facebook as free, right? Because you're charging for it. It's the same concept as that. We aren't charging for it, but we don't want the whole world to get their hands on it. So it's the same thing as if you had a course. You password protect it. So I see a few more people have joined us. Annabelle, hi, how are you? Thanks for joining.
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Sunny day here in Scotland, so all good here.
No worries. Dave, hi, thanks for joining. And
yeah, hi. It's not usually, I can't usually get away, but today's kind of a slow day, so here I am.
You can join us.
I'm glad to be here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dave.
And Pashmina's here, Michelle's here, Jessica's here, Anne's here, Jen's here. Allison is quietly in the background. Sandra has an issue with her phone buzzing, and I see Renata and Tim are just about to join us in audio as well. So we got started right at the top of the hour. And if you want to hear we just talked about posts on Facebook and the legal implication of posting on Facebook. That's in the recording, so you can replay it once we make this call live. Today I want to talk a little bit, and again, this call is to be as interactive as you guys want it to be. I want to talk a little more on the creative side of the business. I want to talk, Anne's here, and we've got her to ask questions. So I want to talk about things like your book cover, choosing your title, layout, illustrations, that type of thing, whether it's the right thing to put an author image on a cover, all those good things. Kindle, is Kindle in color or just in black and white? That we get asked a lot. So again, if we don't cover everything today, we're perfectly good. We're here, we'll have these coffee chats every once in a while. They're meant to be casual. There's nothing formal about them. Anyone can ask a question. Anyone can interject at any time. Okay, one of the things I want to talk about for only just a little bit is the book title, because most of you guys have your title already selected, but it's more general, like, why is it important? And I'd rather hear some feedback about what you think is the reason your book title is so important. Jamie, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. So I guess personally for my book, I chose that title because it asks them a question and then it makes them think. So my book is all about being yourself. So the title is Who Are You? So it's like, well, who am I kind of thing. And so it kind of gets the reader interested in, learning more about themselves and then hopefully picking up my book and wanting to read it.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's one of the best things to do with a book title too, is cause somebody to think by creating the question or by, having a title that causes intrigue. So that's fantastic. I think that's a great answer.
Feeding curiosity, Judy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly, Tim. Absolutely.
I did the same thing with my book. Like, I asked a question, what is a goopsie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and actually
What the heck is that?
You have
You still
to
don't know?
No.
And also I used it as an educational tool, even the way we spelled his name with a Y, because backwards it says yes pug. Goopsie. So I kind of played with the words. So I'm in the same boat as Jamie. I love to ask questions. Yeah.
How we learn.
And that play on it is really cool because we're all guilty, this team, like Anne, Michelle, myself, Jen, have seen your title of your book for months, if not a year or two. And yet I did not personally realize that's what that was. You didn't let me in on it till like the day before, the day of your release.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes your title even more exciting because there's something about it now that will be talked about. So that's another thing that's really good about a title as well, is having that kind of thing going on. That's fantastic. One of the other things I get asked a lot about is putting your picture on the cover of your book. And what's your thought on that, Pashmina?
I mean, unless you're like Michelle Obama, I think you're good to go, because she is an icon. But I think in general, I think it's better to leave it at the back of the book as a headshot. One of our clients, Natalie, she's former Miss Universe. She didn't even put her picture on the front cover. I personally think that I think, yeah, unless you're a celebrity, I think it's okay. But I mean, if nobody knows you, from a marketing perspective, a visual is much more captivating to get your message across. That's just my feeling. I mean, Jamie has his picture on the front.
Yeah, I was gonna say, should I take mine off?
Yeah, no, because
Not
I
for
mean,
your
you're
book.
also selling your mercandise on with your T-shirt, and you look like John Travolta, so you're okay. but I think in some cases it's you know, it works, but in other cases it's I'm not sure if it really captivates exactly the essence. Your message is on your T-shirt, Jamie, on the front. So you have a double thing there. You are selling merchandise on your
It's
cover.
not about merchandise though, Pashmina, and I think that's a bit confusing because that should never be the reason why it goes on your cover of your book. I think it's because of the title of Jamie's book that's the right time, because that's what you're asking.
I agree.
So, and that's such an important, I think that's why you were talking about merchandise. It's such an important part of your messaging is about who you are, but also the masks that you wear. So yeah, in that case, so there's the sort of the general rule is don't put your picture on the book, cover of the book unless there's a specific meaning to it. Like I understand like a coaching book, sometimes authors think that with a coaching book, their picture, but there's, I want to say a gazillion different types of coaching. And as Anne knows, there's an image that would be a better replication of what your message is and the type of coaching you can do.
Yeah,
but in your case, Jamie,
and I think that's the case, really. It's the message. The message is the important part, not your picture, unless your picture really relates to the message.
Yeah, exactly. So there is no, I don't think there is a golden rule. And that's what I think was really, really important today for people to know is that there is no golden rule. There is no right or wrong. There's the averages. The average is don't do it. But depending on what your message is, what do you want on there? So, yeah, I agree. And now that you've spoken up and we've given you a moment to...
I always get a frog in my throat the minute I have to talk. It's been so quiet around the house.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. All we have is this sounds awful, but the dog to talk to.
Exactly. So I have a bit of a rough voice today, but
that's okay.
Here I am.
Okay, so for the cover, when you're talking about a cover design, what do you need from an author? And then would you put like endorsements on the front, the back? Why do you choose to do something like that?
As far as the endorsements go, it's really a call on the author's part, because there are some books where an endorsement really means a lot to have on the front cover. There are other books that it may not be necessary. I don't want to say it's not necessary, because if you have endorsements inside the book, that's great. If you have them on the outside, I tend to always want to put one endorsement on the back cover and then a synopsis and possibly, excuse me, possibly a short bio. And on the, oh my goodness, excuse me. And then on the front cover, if we do have an endorsement, try to keep it short, because a really long endorsement is really just, people will pick up a book or look at a front cover, concentrate on that long endorsement and lose the whole message of the cover, because they don't even look at the cover. They start reading this big, long endorsement, which is great, but it kind of counteracts what you want your cover to be. And as far as the cover goes, the more information I get from the author, the better. So
as far as the concept or the purpose.
And I think my standard answer on this is always the same thing. I can design a book cover, but it'll be my vision, and it needs to be your vision. So, you know, what your message is, what your vision is. Do you have images? Do you have other covers that you love? Do you have a color that you love? Excuse me.
Yeah.
These are all really, really important questions. When it comes to the size of your book, that can come after the fact. I'm not concerned about that when I'm coming up with the concepts for your cover, but I really want to get as much information as possible from you in terms of what, like, where did you go in your own vision when you were writing this book? Because sometimes it's a small message in the book that isn't the title of the book, but a little something in the book that drew this whole thing. And sometimes that's what needs to be on the cover. So it's not always what the title is. I can, we can reflect the words, what the title is, put something that kind of reflects that. But if there's something deeper in the book, that the book is about, what your message is, even if it's a really small point, but it's kind of like the point, let me know that, because if I can do a concept that has that in it, it may be the winner. Or you may pick one that's just text. That is just as effective as an image. It really just depends on what your message is. So I'm very, very open to designing whatever an author wants. I'm not into trying to do it my vision. It has to be your vision. So
Yeah.
the only thing, the most important thing is as much information as possible.
That's provided to you, not as much
Yes.
information that goes on the cover.
No,
Yeah,
information about where
Yeah.
you're coming from, what is your message. Even, you know, everything has a flavor. You know, every book you look at, there's like a
Yeah.
feeling or a flavor that you get from a book cover or from any printed piece. And if you have a feeling about your book, what does your book make you feel like? Or how do you want, or
Yeah,
more
how do you want
importantly,
the reader?
how do you want your reader to feel when they see your book?
Yeah.
It's really important, because if it is a stagnant, and I don't want to say a stagnant picture of the author, but let's say it's just a head and shoulders picture of the author with a title, it doesn't have the same command that
Right.
perhaps an image would help. But that's not to say that it's not right. There's nothing wrong with putting your picture on the front cover. It's just really think hard about what your message is. As Judy had said earlier, it's about the message.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you were talking about endorsement for the cover, and a couple things I want to touch on there. Any endorsement given to you can be shortened with the authorization from the endorser. Most people don't mind. Like some will even send you a note and say, here's my endorsement, shorten as you wish, or you just pass it by them before you put it on. I know Peggy's really good with that, or Bob Proctor. I've done that many times with their endorsements, because like you said, should only be a couple lines on the cover. Doesn't mean that the full one can't go inside the book.
Yes.
And
So I have a question on covers real fast. So when I purchase the cover through you guys, do I own that, as in, like, can I make edits to it? And what I mean by that is I'm thinking about creating a workbook, or I'm going to make a workbook that goes along with the book. And so I'm thinking about, like, if I can just change like a couple words on it to make it, like, say, instead of The Art of Being Yourself, workbook, instead of In a World Full of Max.
What do you think, Judy?
well, good question. It doesn't, put it this way. The cover, you own it. It will never be used for anyone else but you. Excuse me, but the design files reside with Anne. So you can either have her do a modification so that, and that's what a lot of our authors have done when they've created workbooks. I think Heather, I see, is on the call, and what we did with her was we literally took what she already had, and then we just added things like workbook to it, something like that. I've seen us do that many times.
We have done that many times.
Yeah. It's a simple modification.
Yeah, and then what I do is I can then give you a file for your use, depending on whatever format you need. I'll give you that file.
Okay.
You don't have to try to. It's to be honest with you, for you to go in and try to change that or to put something in, may not look as nice as if it was just done at our end, and you can then have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a simple change for sure.
Yeah.
What this does bring up, though, is here's where a cover's even more important, has to do with the branding. And you brought that up with Jamie, is that his cover is now becoming his brand for his products as well. Now it's going to be, you just talked about now a workbook and courses. And I think that's something else that's really, really, really important for an author to stop and take a moment to think about. Because I'm going to use Hasmark as an example. When we created Hasmark, right in the very, very beginning, Colin Miller did my website for me, and I sent him Hasmark services. And Hasmark actually stands for Heart and Soul of Marketing, which I'm going to start using again because I haven't been using it that effectively. But he also created this heart that is on our website. And I don't see how easy it is to see it, but This then became the symbol of every single thing that I have used since that day. In fact, we're in the process of trademarking this heart, and every use of this heart, and Banashee is going to talk about that in our very next legal call, by the way, guys, is trademarking. And so that we can understand all the elements, but my point is that what happened is I had Colin create the heart. The heart became Hasmark Services, ultimately Hasmark Publishing. It's on my Unwavering Strength book. And even the heart then ended up going into Hearts to Be Heard. So your book cover is really important, that it may not be your ultimate branding that you want yourself to be. So, but there should be an element of it that you continue to keep on branding. Like you might use your silhouette, Jamie, as your branding. I saw someone, who was it we did that with the other day, Pashmina? Remember?
Tony.
Yeah, that was really cool. He didn't even notice it. There was a gentleman, or his designer put a guy, it was either kneeling or jumping for joy. You could take it as either one. And we told him how significant, all it is a little symbol on his cover. Just like Hasmark, the heart that Anne created inside the book, that now ends up inside of every single person's book that we publish. So it's incredible how a tiny symbol can end up being the, you know, outcome of so many other things. But always, always, Pashmina is going to have a call with everyone, an open call on Thursday evening. And what we'll be talking about is marketing and branding, including website and bestseller campaigns. We will go on, talk a little more about that then. But I just thought it was important right now that when you're creating your cover, you think about branding. One of the things when we're talking about cover, Ann, is the spine. My recommendation to every single author is have a spine on your book. You can do it. Your book's big enough, have one.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, is if your book is big enough. And that goes by the number of pages, because of course we're talking about the
not big enough in size like this. It's not about that.
It's not about that. It's about the amount of pages, so the thickness. So what happens is we work with a template, as most art files are, and the spine is very, very particular in terms of what is allowed and what is not allowed. So if there is a very small amount of space, it will sometimes be rejected. Even though they've shown that there's a little space to put a title in, for you to put in a title and have it tiny, 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 it's not going to do you a lot of good. Some books, you can't help it. You're just not going to have enough pages. And it just depends on that, really. There's some books where you're not going to have to be able to have text on your spine, including the little Hasmark icon that we put on there. So my recommendation, obviously, or our recommendation will always be have your book as long as possible, but we can't do that. Not every book is going to fall into that category. But I believe it's, gosh, Michelle, you may know better than me, but I believe is it 120 pages or something like that, that you should have to get a good sized spine and a decent sized text on it. And even that's not a very thick book. So, so yeah, it really just depends on the thickness of your book.
I believe.
We can't help. Sorry?
And actually, I have a question, which I actually don't know the answer to, but so if I was an author and let's say I was going with a 6x9 book and then I wasn't creating a spine because there wasn't enough, would it be better for me to consider making my book a bit smaller? Would that make a difference and then give me a spine?
Yes, it will make a difference.
By
Because
5x8?
yes, it makes a big difference actually, because my margins inside the book, I can make them a little bit smaller so we have less words on a page. I have a standard that I like to use for the text size. I can go up a point size to make it a little bit bigger. Again, adds a little extra in terms of pages. We always have our chapters and whatnot start on a right-hand page, so we may have a blank left-hand page if the type didn't run over. We do all these things to try to get as many pages as possible in a book. So it's really, it really comes down to sizing of the book, absolutely, if you have a book that is a heavy on textbook, go with a smaller size. 5.5, 8.5, I would say would be as big as you want to go if you're trying to add size. 6x9 is a good size book. It's a nice size book, but a whole lot more text fits on a 6x9 page than a 5x8.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's one of the most underthought things. And yet I'm looking at I should turn my camera around because I'm looking at my bookshelf and I can read the titles from sitting here. But I'll tell you right now, the ones that don't have the spine, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't make me walk over to my shelf and pick the book up off of his shelf. And really, that's how we all put. So I get it when you first get the book. You just pick it up, you put it. I happen to have my book. You pick it up and you put it down so it's in front of you. But it's sitting on a shelf. If I can read the spine, that's the book that I'm going to go over and probably pick up.
Yeah.
So I think I just think it's one of the most undiscovered or undiscussed, unthought of
Utilized.
in the book industry.
We're off, right?
What's that?
Unutilized.
Yeah, and unutilized, exactly. Because the authors don't think we just had someone change the size of their book when they realized that they weren't going to get the spine. And that's a whole other reflow.
Is it necessary for children's books to have the spine on there too?
I think children's books are really hard to get a spine on them, aren't they?
Yeah, we usually don't. 24 pages a standard. We have done up to, oh, so sorry. We have done up to 60 pages, which helps, but usually no spine.
Callie just wants to talk. She's being ignored, so she's just making sure we're all paying attention to her. So
I just put our dog outside.
oh, okay, yeah. Normally Bailey be like, what the heck? I know Callie. Where is she? So,
Can I take a picture of everyone before I forget?
sure.
Yeah, that's the one, Jamie, right there.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone say Hollywood. Nice one, Renata.
It covered my face.
Oh,
That's
I love
cute.
it.
That's cute. Okay. If anyone doesn't have any other questions on the cover, I want to talk a little bit about the interior. And again, anyone has any experience they want to share, please feel free. This isn't, you know, a formal meeting by any means at all. I want to talk about the interior though, because one of the things Anne's book was one that I should have brought it over. I absolutely adore Anne's cover, first of all. And I love how well the pictures inside her book tell the story. Like, it's not just about reading. Like, you can actually visually see what your journey was all about. And it is, there it is. I love, it is one of my favorite covers. It really is. It's simplistic, but it's beautiful. It's.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Yeah. No, oh, there, even Dave has one. I have mine too. It's sitting right there. So I just don't want to get up and go get it. But when it comes to putting in the illustration, because we did see that there are photos inside of, we'll talk about Anne's book here, but then we'll go and talk about children's in a minute. So what are the requirements? How did you, I remember when we first got that. I remember the journey with Anne to get that first manuscript to today and what it looks like. It is one of the ones that I really will remember fondly.
For any book that has illustrations or photos on the inside of the book, I think the number one thing to remember before I even get into the technical side of things is that for the print version, the interior is black and white. So you will send me your beautiful color photos and I will be converting them, unfortunately, to a grayscale for interior book, with the exception of children's books, which we'll talk about later. And then as far as any illustrations or images that you are supplying to me, ideally high resolution. And I know, Anne, we went back and forth a little with your photos, because a lot of times I will get photos that have been sent that are low resolution, and that's okay if it's a raw photo, because then the photo that I'm getting is like 24 inches wide. I can make that resolution. When I reduce it, I can make that resolution high, so it's not a problem. But sometimes we get really tiny pictures, and we need to remember that high resolution, they will be converted to grayscale. So, and if it's a children's book, they'll be converted to a print color specification, which is CMYK, which is 4 colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So if you give them to me in RGB, when I convert them, I may change, the color may change a bit. Yes, so that's a perfect example. So yeah, high resolution, ideally CMYK. If it's RGB, the conversion in color, if it's a color picture, may shift a little. Usually I will put all of that into an email when you say that you have pictures, because that way it's not something that people will remember. So I do tend to remind people of that. So there's a perfect example that Judy's holding up.
Yeah, and I intentionally picked this page compared to some of the others because
and
these
again,
aren't necessarily all that high res, I don't think.
No, some were not very high res. I had to do a little bit of work on them, but
Look, it's gorgeous.
But in many cases, even though they were not high res, they were not tiny pictures. So if it was a small picture and it was, they were rejected. Others, I did the best to get resolution up, but most of these ones that they sent were high resolution, good photos. And I can do a fair amount of fix up. I can do a fair amount of, like, Photoshop or whatever. You can leave it with me and I'll do the best I can. Sometimes there's no contrast and there are things that we can't do. But generally, yes, I usually will contact the author. I will explain what we need. But in general, high resolution, as big as possible, and then leave it with me to do the conversions and put them into place. I will always red flag it if there's an issue with the picture. And that includes author photos, by the way. Because we have had a few issues where people have sent tiny little, it's a ½ inch by whatever little JPEG that they have. I can't use that. It really needs to, you need to get a good picture or have a I shouldn't assume anything, but have a photographer take a good picture for your bio photo.
And when you say good picture, what's the resolution on that?
Resolution should be a minimum of 300 DPI in every case, every picture that you send. If it's a 72 DPI, then it must be a raw photo, which means it's big. And you will know just from the size of the image. It can be up to 45 inches wide because that's raw off the camera. And that would be ideal for me. So otherwise, if it's closer to the right size, it must be 300 DPI. Whether that's black and white or color, that's the resolution we need.
You almost can tell instantly because when you go to send images and they're any quality, it's going to be hard to send. It's got to come through WeTransfer to you. And WeTransfer, that's the other thing, is receiving the files. Because isn't it true, and Dave can answer this, isn't it true that when a picture is through email sometimes that the resolution can change?
So what happens with email many times, it's not as bad today, but generally speaking, with big pictures or big files don't email well because either your sending mail carrier doesn't allow large files, or the receiver doesn't allow incoming files that large. So they may have a ceiling. My dad sends me videos and stuff all the time. I'm surprised they even get through because they're like 20 meg or so, so that's fairly substantial. And of course, video takes a lot more than just pictures. So that's one of the problems that happens. Another thing that happens, some of the email packages will dummy down the size of the picture. First of all, to fit it into your, whether it's attached or within the email. And for that exact reason, especially from your phone, when you start doing it from your phone, they tend to really reduce the size before it sends the picture for that exact reason, because they don't realize that it has to be high quality at the other end. You're just sending a picture, right? That's all they know. And of course, data on your phone can be very expensive, etc. So yeah, that's what they're thinking. I don't know if there's settings to turn that on or off. It shouldn't be that complicated, but it is. So WeTransfer is a really good idea for larger files. Yeah.
It's free. You literally
It's
Free
go
up to 50. It's
transfer.
free up to 50 gigs, I believe.
Oh
So
yeah, true.
you can fit a lot in that.
Yeah, if you have a picture, 50 gigs. That's
Yeah.
a big picture.
Yeah. It's only when you're sending no multiple images though.
Right. Right.
Or a video. That could
Or
use up
videos,
that
yeah.
And
space.
the ideal thing about WeTransfer is, apart from it being free, you don't have to zip your files. You can put in multiple pictures. You probably won't use up that space. So sometimes zipping a file or condensing a file or for whatever term you want to use, can also corrupt a file. So you have to be careful of that too. It doesn't generally corrupt photo files. It's more when you get into working files and text and something that has a lot of different elements in it. Sometimes something gets corrupted, and then it's just a pain because you have to keep going back and forth and trying to figure out what file isn't working and that sort of thing. So definitely put multiple files on a WeTransfer, or even a single file. If it's one picture and you're not sure about it, I can generally take up to 10 megs, no problem at all on email. But if you're not sure, absolutely use WeTransfer. It's a great tool.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And then comes to I just want to talk about, I don't want to talk about doing the entire children's book, but for illustrating a children's book, sometimes the author has actually received the illustrations or do their own illustrations. How does that work for you? What guidelines would you give them for that?
I would say that generally the biggest problem we have, and it's a problem from my end, it's not a problem for the illustrator or for the author, but it is a problem at my end. When I do the print files, we often have files that are exactly the size of the book, and that can't work. We have to have bleed on everything that has an image. It has to go beyond the trim marks, basically. So
what does bleed mean, though?
Well, bleed means, let's say you have a photo, or rather you have an illustration of a beautiful sky and grass and animals. That sky and grass has to be extended about 1/4 of an inch, or 1/8 of an inch is the exact number. But I would feel better if somebody gives me 1/4 of an inch of extra image, because then I can move it a little bit. If it's the exact size of the trim, I need to either send it back and have it, or I need to try to clone that area. And sometimes I can extend it fine, but it just depends on what the image is. If it's something that is complex or patterned, you don't want me to go in and start stretching it. I mean, ideally the illustrations need to be 1/4 of an inch bigger than the trim size all around. And when we get into cover templates, it's hardcover versus soft cover, and then there's another parameter. I'm sorry. There's another.
Whoops.
You can watch your Kindle. You can read your ebooks on your phone, on your tablet, on your iPad, on other devices, on your computer, on your laptop, other than just the Kindle itself. So if you have a black and white Kindle, you're going to see it in black and white. But if you have any of these other modes, it's going to be in color. So for the most part, I don't know how many people read ebooks on Kindle versus on any other device. I actually tried to look that up once, and I couldn't really find the answer. But I'm sure a lot of people do, because when they go to Amazon to buy a book, they'll see the ebook is cheaper. The software is free. You can't read it. It's not like a PDF where it's just generally you can just read it. And there was a time when PDFs were harder to read. You had to have Adobe PDF Reader. Nowadays, even Word can read a PDF, or there's a lot of readers for PDFs. But the Kindle, I can't forget what their extension is, but the Kindle files have to go through the Kindle reader. But it's free and it works on pretty much any computing device. They have versions, like I say, for Macs, for laptops, for PCs, that kind of thing.
Are
So
children's books black and white too? I mean, they can't be in color, children's books.
no, that's what I'm getting at. Actually, we have done a lot of I've done a lot of ebooks with the children's books, and they're full color version. They will look black and white on the Kindle itself, but on anything else they'll look full color. Exactly.
Kindle device, that specific device, that will always be black and white, correct?
Correct. So the Kindle app is free, but the Kindle device is not. So the Kindle does have a color version now, as of lately, the last year maybe or so. But they're not that popular because people think in terms of, I'm reading words, why do I need color? Which is why they made them black and white in the first place. So they're just monochrome is what they are. So it still works. You can still look at a black and white version of any picture. That's not really a problem. But if you have, like Judy was showing the what is it called? Not Magnificent, Outrageously in Love.
This one.
Okay, that's a very, very colorful book.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's all about the colors, right?
Color.
There's a lot of color pictures in there and such. So putting that into a Kindle, it would still work. But like I say, on any other device, it would be fine.
On a tablet or PC, it comes
Exactly.
in color,
Yeah.
or a phone. But
Or a phone, any
not Kindle.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Because you've shown that to me in your setup, that's how it works.
Right.
I imagine soon, I don't think it's going to be very long before Kindle's going to come out with, I think they already are beginning the intro.
Yeah, you missed the beginning of that. Yeah, so Kindle does have a color version, but again, they're not popular. I don't think they're as popular simply because they cost more. And people are going to buy the Kindle. I can't remember the prices now. I want to say $50 or $80 or something for the monochrome, and then probably twice as much or so for the color version. But
well, I think the other reality to that is that if you're reading to read a book, you don't mind it in the black and white because you're, like you said, you're reading it. You're on the bus, you're on the train or whatever. But when you're at home and you want to look at a kid's book, or you're going to be on your tablet,
right?
And that's probably where you're going to want to read it, and then you will get it in color.
Right.
So therefore, people aren't buying the color ones as much. I'm guessing, but I would imagine that would make some sense.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Hey, Dave.
Extra money.
Dave, can I advertise my ignorance?
Okay.
Is there a difference between Kindle and an ebook?
So, sort of. It depends who you talk to. In the big world of electronic stuff out there, people think ebooks are PDFs.
Yeah.
So technically a PDF is an ebook in that you're getting a document. Word, you could call a Word doc DOC or DOCX extension. You could say a Word doc is an ebook. And people sell or give those away all the time. So ebook is a general term for any electronic document, I'm going to say. Versus a Kindle, which is specifically for the Kindle app or a Kindle device.
Amazon is
right,
Kindle.
through Amazon. Sold through
Barnes
Amazon.
Noble is Nook.
Right.
They're all ebooks. A PDF is an ebook.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not a stupid question at all. It's actually a very common misunderstanding.
Yeah.
What is an ebook?
I've contacted this company called Ingram. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Ingram Spark.
They're the biggest distributor in the world. They distribute your book, by the way.
Huh?
They're the distributor of your book.
Okay. So I just, as we were on this phone call, I got a phone call from the guy who oversees this area. And he told me what to do to get our book into that system. But I didn't know if the URL that you sent me, Judy, would fit into that system or if that's just for Kindle.
Yeah, that was for Kindle. Ingram is going to deal with the product book, the paperback book.
Okay.
And all you have to, you're already in their system. It might be a couple more days because of course we said it's going to take 2 to 3 weeks to completely populate everywhere, because it begins with Amazon and it ends up getting to Ingram. Ingram is the world distributor of books. They're the guy who worked to fulfill the store orders.
Okay.
So what happens is when they get the ISBN, when someone like Ingram wants your ISBN number,
Okay.
and that's printed inside your book, and it's printed on your paperback version on Amazon. You do not need an ISBN for Kindle.
Okay.
Okay, so he's wanting your paper. He's going to be talking paperback.
Okay. Yeah. He actually doesn't handle that, but he called me back and offered advice and stuff like that, and told me to go to New Vendors. What was it? Ingram Content.com and go to New Vendors. So I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. I'm just
you'll
popping around out here trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and as always, just reach out whatever you have questions about. We're here, no problem at all. Absolutely no problem. So that brings the question about the styles of books too, the formatting of books, because we're just talking about Kindle, and I think that it's a great question you asked Tim, and Dave answered about ebooks. And then there's also paperback, hardcover. There is audiobooks, which we're just beginning, and I owe Anne a response, and Collins a response to the audiobooks. And we actually have, what we're doing is we're testing the market on my book first. We're getting audition tapes done. I'm not going to do my book, but it was a great way to start getting and testing the quality of different people in the industry, because it's about, with an audiobook, it's about the voice and the professionalism of the person who's recording your book for you.
I just want to make one more little point about the ebook thing.
Sure.
By far, the biggest seller is going to be Amazon.
Right.
And Amazon doesn't sell PDFs. They don't sell Word. They only sell Kindle ebooks. So that's why it's so important to be published as a Kindle that anybody else could read anyways on their devices.
I
Okay.
agree with you.
As opposed to taking a PDF and saying, well, I could just sell that. Yes.
Okay.
But it's not the same thing.
And Judy, what you were just talking about audiobooks, I told you that we had one of our customers does voiceovers and advertisements and stuff like that.
Right.
And we contacted Chris Orbach, and he said, absolutely, he does that. And he put me in touch with his agent, and the prices they gave us were $200 to $300 a finished page.
Oh, okay. Good to know that.
So I was kind of surprised. And it's all union. He's all union. So you have to pay union dues and all of that stuff. So you're probably looking for a book like ours would probably be between $5,000 and $7,000, which I was not expecting.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. The only thing is here's what just ran through my head. It is a lot, but yet at the same time, it's like everything. If that is the complete package, not that we'll do it before I'd send you to somebody else, but it's the audition. So you want the professional person doing it. So you want to make sure it's a good quality, because I can go to some site and I can buy a cheap audition a voiceover.
You don't want Mickey Mouse doing your book?
Maybe. It's my book, so it's okay. But I don't want them doing your book. And then it's the cover has to be designed. Then there's the description in the ISBN, and then the setting it up, and then the editing, whether it's, and I'm sure that is covering the professional editing. So when at first I do the same thing. I'm like everybody else. I go, wow, that's a lot. And I did not expect that kind of number. I don't anticipate we're going to reach that kind of number. But at the same time, depending on how much work they do, what's included in it, it's like looking at anything. It can start with several hundred just for the audition. But then by the time I edit it and create the professionalism and all the rest of it, it's really, that's what's going to be driving the cost up. There's a lot more elements to it. And that's part of what's taking us a little while to get that for Anne, is because I don't like it when I give something to somebody or quote somebody and I missed an element, or I didn't get it right, or I'm not going to give you the quality that we are bound and determined to give you, because we're on the journey with you. We're not just doing something and tossing it away. Yeah.
Annabelle has a question. Do you want to ask Annabelle? Do you want to jump on?
Yes, yeah, okay. You'd spoken to me about audiobooks right when we first started speaking, and it had gone out of my mind until just now. And I'd love to read my own. I'd love to read my own book. I've got drama training. I do quite a lot of that sort of stuff anyway. And I've got friends who are recording musicians who have professional recording equipment, and I could probably count a couple of favors or something there. So I was just wanting to, especially in the light of what's just been said about the potential cost of these things, to assess the possibility of reading my own book as an audiobook. And
I agree with what Dave said here. Yes, absolutely. What you said was really critical. It's the recording equipment.
The recording quality, that's what matters, of course, the most.
Yeah.
A professional is going to have the proper mics and stuff like that. A really good mic, a USB mic for your computer, is actually not that expensive. As long as you're not in the shower when you're recording it and you're getting all the reverb and stuff, you should be able to get a pretty good quality. What happens with microphones when you get up close and personal is the P's and the T's tend to pop.
Yeah.
So what I generally do is if I'm talking into the mic, I put it sideways and I talk across the mic as opposed to into the microphone.
As it were. Yeah.
That'll stop the P's and T's from popping. And you can test it yourself, and as long as you have no background noise or a nice quiet area where you can do that, because you wrote the book, you know where the inflection should be, the excitement and such. And you could probably read it better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And I love it when authors read themselves. I think that's the best type of ebook. It's up to you, and some people are mic shy and such, so whatever.
So from what you've just said there, if I can count a favor, then that would be useful. But otherwise, a decent mic for just on my laptop and a quiet area where my kids are just slamming doors and whatnot aren't going to be faffing around in the background, that would actually work as well. Okay, well, for example, the microphone you're using right now is not good enough. No, I'm not using a microphone. It's just my laptop. Right, right. Well, I thought that's what you were just saying about your laptop. No. I was saying, but if I got one of the USB ones that you say, I've got a decent microphone that I could plug into this to augment. It's just like whatever comes with the camera. It has to be a good mic. It doesn't have to be the most expensive mic, but it has to be a very good one. Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of pointers that you could give in that respect, because they teach you how to read it, how long to be recording it, and then again, the cost you'll save on the audition of that voiceover.
Let me ask you guys right now, real quick, with the authors in the audience here, raise your hand if you would consider recording your own book. Okay, so that's pretty much everybody. That's really good. So the thing is, then I'm gonna put something together for the website to help you guys think it through, because that's a really good way of doing it. And it's really it's not crazy expensive, and there's basic editing. Okay. Let me think about that. I'll get back to you with that.
And I think I misspoke, Judy. I think it was $200 to $300 a finished hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
not a
We can,
page.
again, yeah, exactly. And that's what I think there's a lot to it, a lot more. And it's again, it's, and we'll get prices all over the place.
And
on
that's also New York City.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, we won't even start to talk about that right now. We'll leave
He-
that one alone.
He has a recording studio in his basement that he designed and built.
That's
But
good. I'll reach out to you.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, to discuss that. And I notice we're getting closer to the top of the hour, so I do want to check in with everybody to see if there's anything in as we close up the call. You know,
Jamie has a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if Dave could just give us some recommendations for microphones if he has any, or if he knows of any. If not, I can Google it. But I just wanted to see from him if he had.
Oh boy, that's a good question. I was trying to remember. There's one that I've heard of that I like. I used to be a singer, so I have a real professional stage mic that I like to use. Whenever I don't record a lot, certainly myself talking but it does a really good job for me. It's a Shure Beta 58, which is kind of old school, but it works really well. So let me look at it's something blue.
and what we'll do, Dave, is we can post that on the Facebook page.
Yeah,
We don't need to hold everybody up right now because I think you can do some research and then we'll, because like I
Yeah.
said, we're getting close to the top of the hour right now as
That
well.
was something
So
as well.
I think what, yeah, I see that. I was going to say what I think we'll do is this is definitely pointing something out to us that we, okay, now that's making me laugh way too much. This is definitely something with the voiceover that maybe we even have a call that we bring Dave, and I see Jessica saying that she's got experience. Maybe it's something that we'll have in its own, and that's where we'll start talking about tips and stuff, because this caused its whole conversation and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So I can't even, that made me stop. Watch what you're saying because you might.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah, no, watch what you're typing. Because I'm not sure that I would have said that. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I do think that this is a whole conversation in itself. I think this would be a good one, that it would be worth setting up a future call. And we get Jessica and Dave and even Jen can talk about the audio and the recording and the editing. And we can talk from the start of it right through to getting it complete, because I think this would be amazing if we, phenomenal was the word I was looking for, to do this, because you guys all put your hand up, and to me it's like, let's get the audio books done. Like, it's that time. This world needs this right now. So I think it would be phenomenal to have you guys work with us and create it and bring it out to the world. So we'll definitely follow up with an email and let you know when that call will be. And thank you, Jessica, for letting us know that. And Dave for your pointers. And Anne, thank you. You do an incredible job, as all the members of the team do, but you're always so very professional. And I love the quality of your work. And that's why we continue to keep on using your services over and over and over again on this team. Because
and to all the authors, I'm always here. Like, if you have a question, you're not sure of something, you can always email me. I'm very happy to answer questions because I know there are technical questions that come up, so feel free.
And our emails are all pretty much similar. It's Michelle at Hasmark Publishing, Anne at Hasmark Publishing, Pashmina, Dave, Jessica, Danielle, Jen. So we're all very, very easy to reach. It's never a problem. And you'll find us on the website too. So I thank everyone for attending today. Thank you for allowing us to record it. It's been a great conversation. I've really, really enjoyed the content of today. So I'm looking forward to the next call, which is Thursday night. Thank you, Pashmina, at 9 p.m. EDT. And it will be talking about more on the marketing, creative, bestseller, design, and then website. So it'll cover those things for this week anyways. And then trust us, there'll be lots more announcements because there's more calls coming up with Banafshe. And now we will have a call soon to talk about audiobooks as well. So any subject you guys feel you want talked about, we can always jump on for shorter calls too. And that's what we're actually thinking about doing, is doing segments. And I think one of the other things we're talking about is having calls specifically with certain genres and let the authors come up and be on stage and ask questions and just to share your experiences. Like fear factor is a big one. I don't think there's many calls with authors we don't talk about fear. And I think you sharing your experience in that way, sharing your experience of achieving. I was talking to someone yesterday, Anne, about how successful you have been with your book. And that's what she said. It was incredible to have watched you and known you through the whole process. That was Michelle I was talking to yesterday. So she was telling me that it was fun watching you. So I think that's something future. Very soon, we're going to start doing those calls as well. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you guys. And as always, we're here for you anytime you need us. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.